Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the top 5 things you should be looking at when you're looking to buy one of these GM square bodies from 73 to 87, and maybe even some of the Suburbans and Blazers. So stay tuned. Now, the reason why I wanted to go through and kind of show you guys a little bit about the things to look for on these square body trucks is because, well, the prices are only going up on these things, even for the real junky ones. I'm going to use my truck, my 77 C10, as I call Dale, and we're going to kind of give you guys a little bit of info on what to look for, some of the common things, and there might even be a bonus at the end. So let's jump in, give you the top 5 things you should be looking for on a C10. The very first thing you need to do before we jump into this video is make sure you have a budget set in mind. You want to be looking at vehicles that if you're capable of doing some work yourself, that you're actually going to be able to afford to do that work. So we're going to go under the principle of saying you've got $5,000 to spend. Maybe you've got more, maybe it's less. But at $5,000 you've got to be able to buy the truck, fix any repairs that need to be fixed, and then get it ready for the road. So you got to set yourself a budget is the first thing. So that's going to dictate, and it's going to weed out a lot of vehicles that you might want to look at. If something's been sitting in the woods for 15 or 20 years, $5,000 budget may not cut it, because you got to buy the truck. It's been sitting. Chances are you're going to do brakes all the way around, tires, suspension. You've got some rust that's good because it's going to be sitting in the dirt. So all of that stuff costs money. And if you guys recall, when I did Dale the truck, I did a breakdown, and I'm going to put that video right up here so you guys can take a look. And when we did that video, I broke down all the costs on what we did on this project, and we didn't even paint it. So that's kind of the thing you want to set first. Second thing, you want to be able to do a walk around on the vehicle. You found the truck, let's take a walk around and we'll show you some of the common things on the outside of the vehicle that you want to be looking for. So Dale the truck is no exception to the common areas of rust on these C10s. First place we're going to start is back here on this rear quarter. Now you'll see there is a rust spot, and what happens is water and crap gets set down in there, and they like to collect moisture, and over time they will leave holes. Now when I bought this truck, I knew exactly what I was up against, and you can tell the paint is not perfect. It's got lots of picks and scratches and stuff, but I was going for a truck that had original paint, and pretty much about 90% of this truck still is original paint. So it's not the only problem on the rear, but usually on the front. So this one here is not so bad. We've got a little bit starting back here on the rear as well. So these are some of the areas in front and behind the wheel wells that you want to be looking for. The other is the top of the wheel wells. There's a little lip that sits in there. On this side, you can just barely see a little bit coming through here. But on the driver's side behind this molding, again, this molding likes to hold the moisture. If you don't have them, you might be in better shape. There's a little bit starting right there, and we come back and there's a little hole starting there, and some spots down in there. On the front fenders, same thing. You can see there's a little spot just starting right there, and down in behind this molding is a place where moisture and dirt will sit. If you can get those off, you can do a quick repair. And up front, same thing. You got a little bit starting right there. And on Dale the truck, we actually repaired this whole section, and you can buy those panels right from LMC Truck, Brothers Trucks. I think AMD also sells them as well. Seeing as how we're right here in this area, the bottoms of the doors, rocker panels, cab corners, and actually even the floor supports underneath the truck are also common areas for body repair. On Dale the truck, we did do rocker panels and cab corners, and I was able to stop the repair right here at this molding, so I didn't have to tap into this color. But as you can tell by the bottom of the door and right down in here, again, Dale is no exception to the rust. And at some point, I'm going to have to address the bottom of this door. When we tore the carpets up, and I'll see if I can find a video clip of when we cleaned up those floors, when I tore the original carpets up on Dale the truck, everything was great. There was a little bit of surface rust. We treated that, and we put some sound deadening and new carpet on this. Now, I'm no great welder, but this was my first attempt at welding in the patch panels for the inner rockers. And another spot is this mount right here. Usually is rusted away from the frame and the floor in this support. So these supports here you can buy as well. But like I said before, when it comes to doing that type of repair, you got to know your skill set. So on the 73 to 80 trucks, the hood and the top cowl piece here are all one. On the 81 and up, the cowl actually comes to about here and the hood starts here. So it's a shorter hood. Part of the problem with that is because of crush zones and crumple systems on these older trucks, these hinges would get stiff, and when you pulled down, you would get a kink right here, and this truck, again, no exception, where the hood would kind of lift up. I've done a little bit of work to try and straighten this out. This side was always the problem. Over here on the driver's side, never really had much of an issue because it's down pretty much level with the fender where it's supposed to be. The other part of these hoods was up in here in this leading edge, would get water and moisture and crap. And again, you can see here on Dale that it started a long time ago, and there's even a crack right there. But when I bought the truck, one of the things I did was I got in there with a hose and I washed all the dirt and grime that was in there. And then I did spray a little bit of undercoating in there to help prolong the fact that I would someday have to replace this hood. And one last shot over here on this side. This is the worst fender on the whole truck. As you can see, the rust is coming through there. And again, I did clean up in behind, but the problem is that once that rust starts, unless you're getting in there and undercoating it all the time, it will creep its way back. I've had Dale the truck for almost 3 years now. So at some point, somewhere down the road, I'm gonna have to do a complete restoration on this when my budget allows. But for now, I'm really enjoying the original paint on this truck. So guys, if by now you haven't done so, go ahead and click the like button down below. And if you're not subscribed to Olde Carr Guy, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, because we are trying to build this channel and grow the channel and hopefully get more and more people joining the Olde Carr Guy family. And you know, so we can put some great videos together, do some more work on Dale the truck and some of the other projects that we have in the shop. So we talked about, one, setting your budget and making sure you've got the money to do the repairs that may need to be done. Two, we've done the walk around. We've checked and we've seen on the outside of the truck some of the things that we may end up having to replace at first glance to determine whether it's priority or something that can wait. Let's move on to number 3. So number 3 takes us under the hood. Now, there's a pile of money that can be spent underneath the hood of one of these trucks, but there doesn't have to be. And the reason why I say that is because if you can get the original engine or the engine and the transmission setup that's in here running just as is, you can probably have yourself a pretty decent and fairly reliable truck right out of the gate. So the first things that you want to do is you want to determine if this truck is going to start and if it's got gears. Now on old Dale the truck, it had the original 350 and turbo hydromatic 350 transmission, and everything was great. Everything worked. I did have to replace a master cylinder just to get it to stop, but the original engine worked great. The problem was it leaked out of every orifice. This truck had done some work, but it had been sitting for a little while, and I had to outweigh whether it was costly to tear the original motor apart and just re-gasket it and put it back together, or that I want to build something with a little bit of power and a little bit more reliability by making sure that everything had been touched. That's the route I went. It cost me a lot of money to do that, but again, if you can get the original engine running, you don't have to spend that kind of money. But keep in mind, some of the things that you're gonna have to spend money on likely are fuel lines, hoses, belts, that sort of thing, because again, that stuff as it sits gets old and brittle and can cause you problems down the road. But at this point, you should already know whether the vehicle runs and drives, because if you're answering a Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or some sort of an ad, then you're gonna know that it probably already runs. The seller may have told you some of the quirks or some of the problems that it has, or you may already know where you sit with that. If it's a non-runner, again, you got to put that into your budget because, well, like I said before, you can spend a pile of money on making an engine that doesn't work again. So if you know the engine runs and maybe the gears work, well, you know it runs. Now we have to know whether it's going to stop and if it's safe for the road with suspension. So a couple of things that you can do is bring yourself a jack and a way to jack up the front end on each corner of the front to see if the ball joints, the tie rods, wheel bearings, and be able to check those brakes, turn the wheels, make sure nothing's seized up, because again, you can spend a lot of money on front end parts, but if everything is good, well, that's a few bucks in your pocket that you don't have to waste. Now, at the end of the day, depending on your state, whether you need a safety inspection to get this thing ready for the road, well, that'll determine how much you have to do. If it needs a wheel bearing, ball joint, tie rod, all that sort of thing, and check the tires while you're at it. Some of those things may need to be checked via your state or your provincial safety inspections. So again, keep that in mind, because even 4 tires today with their prices can run you anywhere from $400 to $800 for a decent set. Okay, number 5, the interior. This is the original seat out of Dale the truck. And this is the original dash, which is still here. The seat and the dash pad are probably 2 of the most common and most expensive things you'll replace in a C10 truck. The seats were common for the seats being worn out and torn, the vinyl or the cloth. I've replaced mine with an OBS seat out of a 90s GM truck, and it's got the lumbar support and it's a little more comfortable. And I did a video on that, so if you want to check that out, make sure you head on over here. I'll leave that link as well. And there's lots of options for dash pads. There's covers, there's slip-on covers. You can replace the entire dash. And again, LMC Truck, Brothers, AMD, all those guys have certain options. So when it comes to interior, you can do a lot or a little. You can replace pads, door cards. You can put a tilt wheel in, which I just haven't done it yet. And this truck has air conditioning, so it was a factory air truck. And that's what I was looking for when I went and found one. I didn't care that it was a long box, short box, 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive. I just knew whatever I got, I wanted factory air. This truck has it, and it works. So from here on out, there's a couple of things that you sometimes won't be able to check sitting in a field or someone's driveway. You might be able to crawl underneath, but check the frame. You want to check the frame over by the steering box, because there's a lot of torque that comes on those steering boxes, as well as you want to check all along the front and rear. Make sure there's no cracks. Some of these older trucks, when they were sitting in the grass, sitting on the ground, they would get soft on that leading edge of that C-channel. So you want to make sure that you're able to get in there with confidence and know that when you're buying a truck, that you're buying one that has a solid foundation. If you're unable to get underneath the truck and you still want to buy it, then you should set your budget accordingly and make your offer under the condition that if you can't get under there, that you may have to do some frame repair because you weren't able to look. That's going to cost you money, so you make sure you budget accordingly. Now, I did tell you that there could be a bonus, and well, there is. And the bonus here is cosmetics. There's a lot of things that you can buy in the aftermarket to help dress your truck up and make things work more functional. Here's a couple of examples of things you can get through either LMC Truck, AMD, or through Brothers Parts or Brothers Truck. Let's take a look at those. Your grill. Dale has a lot of chrome on the front of this thing, but the grill is just simply black. That's the way that I bought it. And if you guys remember, I did hit a deer. I got a few bumps and bruises there, and I broke out the original grill, but I found another one just like it. So if you want to upgrade your grill, that is something that you can do. And sometimes people are going to the 73, 74 style and doing that, but that's a big job as well, because you do have to change that header on the inside. Weather stripping. I replaced the weather stripping here around the window because, well, when the door windows were down, they would rattle inside because they didn't have the strength, or these were actually gone, to hold it in place. And it helps keep water from going inside the door and rotting the bottom of your door out. You guys all know that these trucks were notorious for having to slam the doors. Well, on this striker, this is a piece of plastic or a piece of nylon that helps close that door tight, and if it's not there, you'll constantly be slamming the door. Little trick, you can crack the window just a little bit so that when you're closing the door, you don't have to slam it as hard to get it to close because the air can escape out through the top of the window. Your back glass, this is the original window in this truck, and a lot of guys will swap out that solid rear glass for a rear slider. Trucker Dave sent me one a long time ago, and I still have yet to get it in the truck, but at some point I will pop that solid rear glass out and put the rear slider here in Dale the truck, and then I can go ahead and get it tinted as well. A lot of guys talked about these big mirrors on this truck and said they didn't like them. And at first glance, they are big, they're a little bit gaudy, but it's what came on the truck. In fact, the original ones are right there as well. And as you can tell, they're white. And I had a buddy of mine who follows me on Instagram, found these and bought them for me. I paid him back and he shipped them right to me. I got these swapped out. So now we've got the stainless or the brushed look, and it kind of fits in a little better with the truck, seeing as how the bumpers and everything else is all chromed. Speaking of bumpers, if we go to the back, a lot of these trucks came with just a step bumper, and down in the south, you could actually get them with no bumper. So this one has the sport bumper. I believe these were available back in the day, but sometimes you could swap them out off of a Chevy van, a G van, and make them work. And this truck actually had a trailer hitch on here once upon a time, which we're actually going to get put back at some point in time. So you can go ahead and put a sport bumper, which doesn't have a step, on a two-wheel drive. It's fine. You don't need a step to jump up in there. I can actually crawl over this thing when the tonneau cover's off and hop in without having to put the tailgate down. And last but not least, trim. This is a 77 truck. It's a Scottsdale, so it did have the trim package with all these stainless pieces here. This one was missing, as well as one across the back of the tailgate. I managed to find some. They were painted black because in 77 was the year that you had the gold in the inlay. The only other option that had that gold trim in that besides black was the Gentleman Jim trucks. The black and gold trucks had that as well. So I had to find those, and I actually painted the gold inside there. These Scottsdale emblems were faded out pretty bad. Again, I used the same paint that I used on the trim in here, as well as I bought some black, and I kind of went in and I filled in the black there as well. The other thing that I had done was I had some hand painting done on the doors. A good buddy of mine, Paul, who's no longer with us, did that for me, and it basically just sets the truck off for not just my business, but for the YouTube channel. Kind of gives the name there as well. And I went and I had the windows tinted on the side as well as in the back. The back is really dark. The side's not so dark because here in New Brunswick, they can't be that dark for inspection. So there you have it, guys. There are some tips and tricks of what to look for, not just with C10s. I mean, these are some of the things specific to C10s, but for just about any vehicle you're going to look at for a project. Make sure you know what your budget is. Make sure you know what you're looking at. Make sure you know what the cost of the repairs are going to be long before you go look at the truck. And once you're there, if you find some unexpected things, budget accordingly. Make sure you're offering what you need to offer to make sure that whatever that budget is, you've got the money on the other end after buying the truck to do some of those repairs. I hope this video helps you out. If you're in the market for a square body truck, just be aware of some of these issues, because people are asking ungodly money for these things in way, way, way worse condition than when I found Dale originally. So just be on the lookout. There's lots of information out there on the internet. There's tons of other videos. I hope you enjoyed this one. I asked you before to hit the thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to help the channel so we can be putting together some more videos just like this one. Guys, stay focused on the windshield, not the rearview mirror. I love you. God bless. Let's do it again real soon.